And I'm like talking to people, and they're saying, "Nah, man, we did not have to fight every day. We were not carrying knives every day. I used to carry a fucking box cutter, and I would carry a lock, for like your locker, and I would always shuffling my box cutter, always holding onto my lock because somebody is gonna hurt me. Now I look back on it saying, oh, paranoia, you was a paranoid teen. But nah, things was crazy back in the day, and we was all like, it was a straight up violence a lot. And here's the thing though, in the 90s we were like, nah, because this is nothing. In the 70s, these dudes was really putting in that violence, And so like every decade is like, no, it's getting better, and I don't know, it changes. The violence changes, and the vibe of violence changes. But yeah, did that answer the question? I don't even know where I started with that.
Yeah, but I guess you could say that humanity as a whole is slowly going towards peace. There's ups and downs, but it almost seems like each era or each society is slightly less violent than the other. It's hard to say because, we got wars and all these crazy nuclear weapons, right. But I'm just like, I guess even just talking about New York in itself, you can see that change happening. Now New York is one of the safer cities in the world.
I don't know how much I agree with that, only to say, how that comes about is what I think is more violent than the actual violence. So without a doubt, like there were really bad things that happened in the past between human beings. You know what I mean? One thing I could even just say off the top of my head, thinking about this subject, is how we used to take the car antennas. We used to rip them off the cars. This is back when car antennas used to like go up and down. They don't do that anymore, but if they were up, we would rip them off because they could make a gun, and we could put a bullet in there and make a gun out of it that nobody could trace. Because you could put a bullet inside these hollow, how do you call it, like tubes.
Yeah.
You could take a rubber band and a nail, and you could pull it back, and you could shoot somebody. And it was like, no way you could get caught for that. And it was like crazy shit like that. And also robbing people on 42nd Street. So I grew up on a block where there was a guy who actually did that for his job. And he taught me how to do it, how to rob people's pockets and how to get away from the police. And so it was like this crazy thing where the guy, like, there's shadows, and you watch shadows following you. And if the same shadow follows you too long, you're being watched, and you got to fucking cut down this way. You know what I mean? So like, there's this crazy thing. But all right, so those are the crazy things that happen. But then the police force, I believe, and I write about this in one book that I wrote called The World Screaming Nov. The police force became way too powerful under Giuliani, way too. Also, just criminals themselves. And, we're talking about it today with Black Lives Matter, but the fact is they arrested every black person, every black man. And, there are plenty of black women in prison, but what I'm trying to say is every black dude I knew back growing up, every little minor infraction they'd be put in prison for. And it was a crazy thing. So I don't necessarily subscribe to the idea that we're in a peaceful society today. I think we're in a oppressive society that forces black people into prison, and I'm against that. I'm against this society. I'm against this so-called peace. I believe that I prefer war over this so-called peace. Sorry.
Oh, sorry to interrupt. So you would say this so-called peace is almost it's almost an illusion. They try to sugarcoat all these things and make people think that we're living in a more peaceful society, but low-key we're still living in a very oppressive society where people are very separated and divided, and we're definitely not anywhere near united, which would bring quote-unquote peace. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and that reminds me of the neoliberal. And if you look into what that word means, the neoliberal is like Starbucks. It's like a way of saying everything's cool here, but it's not real. It's not from the community. It's imposed peace, rather than peace that comes from the community. You know what I mean? And so we can put the Disney smile on everything and say everything is peace here. But when you get down to the nitty gritty, there will never be peace. There will always be war as long as white supremacy is out there, and as long as people feel that white skin is better than any other skin.